We're starting off high.
So we can get a two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot.
You had accountability. Now, what I can...
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
No, not even.
Where, give me the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a Foolproof page.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live at Facebook.com/Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
trust human to raise back wolves.
Before I would trust a pack of humans to raise wolves.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? Welcome to another edition of Do Fools Agree. As always, I'm your host, Michael Reggie, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings.
Assalamu alaikum.
I almost stumbled over my own name there.
Yeah, I did that on the last Hit the Shower stuff.
Who the fuck am I?
That's
exactly here's the problem. Here's the problem is that I've been in the rabbit hole, and I'm not sure who I am anymore.
You know what I'm saying? All these goddamn CERN hydrogen colliders colliding.
Right.
I'm questioning who I am.
Where are we? What year is this? Because right now it's feeling like Vietnam in the 60s, 70s.
It's feeling like something.
Oh man,
what's been going on with you? What's happening? What's happening?
You know, this was an interesting week. It was
why?
You know, work wise wasn't too bad. Last weekend after the show was the kiddo's birthday party. He had a great time. And boys, they got their asses kicked in football the next day because they were tired and played like trash. Had a first this week. I went to my first breast augmentation consult with a friend of mine. It was very interesting.
I've seen them on MTV. It ain't that deep.
It ain't that deep, but still,
they
just
color on your boobs.
I tell you what, everybody who works there has had work done.
Oh, really? They got that employee discount,
right? No doubt. And I got snapped at for looking. I'm like, obviously, it worked well for Chelsea here. So
how you snapping at me? This is polygamy. We recruiting. This ain't that.
Oh man. But it was interesting.
You want somebody that's already been through the game before,
right?
That knows how it's gonna go.
No doubt.
That can massage you gently.
Oh, dude. No, it was.
Hold up, real quick. My fault.
Oh, you good? But other than that, you know, relatively normal week. Just keeping busy. Trying to think if there was anything kind of noteworthy. We had. Actually, the X-Men cartoon continues to deliver.
You can't hear that, can you?
No.
Okay, that's all I was worried about.
Yeah. No, you good. I was talking about X-Men 97 over on the Disney Channel, which is not even the reboot. It's the continuation of the 1997 X-Men cartoons that were going on when we were growing up.
That's the TV. Oh, it's the cartoon then.
Yep. And so they did basically a whole new season that's on Disney Plus right now. And it's been some intense stuff.
Okay. Like it wasn't like the one back in the day?
I mean, the one back in the day had like some intense moments with like the Phoenix Saga and the Dark Phoenix Saga. This one, the way that they talk about it is that like the first 2 episodes occur pre 9/11, but everything that happens after that is kind of post 9/11, except their 9/11 is different because it's a fantasy world or whatever. But
okay,
at some point, Magneto ends up leading the X-Men, and he's basically standing in front of Congress, and Congress is like, "We will not allow countries to fund terrorism." And then he's like, "It's funny how countries often become terrorists themselves." Like, some deep shit. Like, so there's some good. It's one of those like, you see the trope all the time, like so and so was right, and it ends up being like the bad guy was right, right? Like that's kind of the theme of this entire season of X-Men '97 is Magneto is right and humans are trash and blah 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 because. The X-Men have always been an allegory for the civil rights movement, right? Like that's always been the allegory behind the X-Men.
We've been knew that.
No doubt, and I think this one just gets more to the point. So it's been interesting. And I wasn't even going to bring that show up, but you know what? It's one that I've been watching week to week since it started. So it's at least been enough to kind of catch my attention. And since you walked away.
How long has that been?
There's only 8 episodes, or 7 or 8 episodes. So
8 weeks. That's long enough.
And I've watched it like week to week. Well, after the first 3 weeks, like I kind of binged the first, and maybe the first 2 or 3 dropped at the same time. I can't remember. But it's been a nostalgia trip, and then it's also like it's taken it kind of to the next level. Like I would say, kids can watch it, but it's not a kids show.
Right. Yeah, I think the old one was more so kind of geared towards kids. That's how I don't remember. Like, I'm sure there were some, edge in the line,
some darker episodes,
moments in it. It was a '90s cartoon, but I don't remember anything because that was my whole thing with the superhero stuff. Why I didn't get into it, they just were so. Playful, like it was playful. It wasn't like real action. You know what I'm saying?
No, it was designed to sell toys.
Right.
And I had them, so there you go.
I had a few myself.
I could never get Wolverine's claws right with the toys, though. It was always like three claws attached to one piece of plastic. And it popped out.
I don't know. It depends on which one she had. I remember I had one of them, the full size gold edition joints. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, where it was like.
Gotcha, like a foot tall, like G.I.
like
Joe.
a 12-inch one. Yeah. And it had the everything was gold, and he had like the black stripes or the black whatever he had on his thing, and he had that shit was high.
All right.
I don't remember having no issues with them blades.
See, I think I always had like the
little ones,
the 4-inch, 5-inch ones.
Right, the ones that are slightly bigger than G.I. Joes. They were probably like a
Yep.
Yeah, I had a few. I had Wolverine in that one too. I had him. I had Gambit. I had Colossus.
I think you just named all the ones I had. I definitely had Cyclops.
I might have had him. I think I did.
Oh, I think I actually went to. It wasn't even a toy store. It was like it was some sort of convention, and I think I picked up a Phoenix. I think I have the Phoenix too.
Oh, for real?
Basically, Jean Grey and like the green and white.
Do you still have any of your old?
Oh yeah, that closet in the on the second floor has all sorts of old toys in it. Power Rangers, X-Men, Star Trek, Star Wars.
You don't got any still boxed up?
Oh hell no. Nah.
I bet that's a little bag at the moment.
That shit would. Even a lot of that stuff is worth. I've seen what that shit goes for at conventions these days. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Even like the Star Trek toys, man. Like, whoo.
Yeah, man. I feel like that'd be a nice little bag if you had some of them.
Right. But I don't. So, although I will say some of the 1970s like original Star Wars line toys, even not in box, can still fetch a little bit.
For real.
Yeah. And most
Star
of mine
Wars,
are
though,
in pretty good shape.
Star Wars though is like a crazy cult following though.
That's true.
So much so that they haven't given up on them yet with these trash ass movies they've been making
The
nowadays.
last couple, yeah.
Well,
Well,
like they just stringing people along, and it's like, well, when are we gonna get an actual good Star Wars? Then comes what's his name, Michael Bay or whatever the dude's name is with the moon shit, the Rebel Moon. Is that wasn't that not Michael Bay? Was that Michael Bay?
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. I knew it was one of them motherfuckers. But you can't.
Honestly,
you can't
if they would have been willing to like basically put the Star Wars on IP on Rebel Moon, it would have been a better movie, and you would have gotten more eyes on it.
Right. Right. It's definitely better than any recent Star Wars movie that I've seen.
Yeah, I think the only one that it would probably compete with is Rogue One.
Which one is that?
Which was not part of like the trilogy. It was the one where they steal the Death Star plans. Jyn Erso and...
It's not... Is it the one with the girl?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I think I've seen that one. That one was pretty good.
And they did a spin-off show on the other main character in that, Cassian. And Andor actually did pretty well. That's actually where they've done the majority of their good work, has been in the TV space.
See? And that just doesn't make sense. That's how you know that somebody that doesn't need to have it has it.
Right.
You know? That's how you know Disney's playing a role in that. Because Disney wasn't involved in the original Star Wars movies, but what they do know very well is the TV space.
Yep.
And it's like that doesn't hold true to what people was brought up on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and what's been interesting is that I don't know.
Star Wars had me at the first three.
Like the TV shows haven't focused on the Jedi. It's been everything else in Star Wars. Like,
oh, okay. I can see what you're saying.
Like, they started doing it a little bit with Ahsoka, had a little bit of Jedi. Even Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan doesn't use the Force until, the last 2 episodes.
See, I haven't seen, I don't think I've seen not one Star Wars TV show.
Yeah.
Like, not one episode of one show. I don't know that world.
See, you would.
But I do know.
I actually think you would get behind the Mandalorian, at least the first season, maybe the second season.
I'm sure you're right because I like Pascal or whatever his name is. I do like him, but that's the only movie franchise that I know of that the originals are so old and people still
so
like them more.
Better.
Like those are the ones that the people go to. Like everything else, even if it's a worse movie, because it's modernized, people are like, I don't care. I like this one more.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any other franchise where it's like, oh, you like Star Wars, would you have to watch the originals?
Right.
You haven't seen the originals. Usually you don't even become a Star Wars fan until you've seen the originals.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. Although I do think there's a whole generation of kids that are 8 years younger than us that grew up with the prequels, and that's their Star Wars. Because they had they had the prequel movies, and then they had the Clone Wars cartoon.
But see, that's interesting about us, right? Because it's like, that wasn't our time.
No.
That was our parents' time. That wasn't our time.
But we were but we were the ones raised on it because it was on video when we were growing up.
Well, see, my grandfather.
Return of the Jedi came out in '83, and so it was big in the home videos.
That was the last one with the Ewoks and shit, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably why I like Star Wars. Just memories, because that was Pippa's shit. He was the one that liked that. He just tried to put me on to it, and
That's why that like whole generation of movies sticks with me, is because I remember watching them with my dad. Like the Star Wars movies, the Star Trek movies, Karate Kid, Back to the Future, Total Recall. Like those were
muff porn. I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, those are the ones that like that's my nostalgia trip, is going back and watching those. Like, what did I just watched something the other day. Oh, I was watching one of the Star Trek movies, and I'm like, I remember like sitting with my dad and watching this. So,
I think I saw that one where I don't even know what the name of it was. I don't even know how we ended up seeing it, because I know I wouldn't have picked it out, but my mom wouldn't have either.
yeah.
And I remember being in the theater with my mom. What was the one where the people with the white faces?
The Borg.
Yeah, they came and they attacked them while they were trying to fix their ship on the outside, and they were like floating at each other, shooting the guns and shit. Whatever one that was.
Worf ends up like pulling out a fucking knife and knifing one of them. Yes.
Man.
That also has one of the
the
greatest Star Trek speeches of all time, where Picard flips out and he's like, the line must be drawn here, this far, no farther. Like, that whole speech is just intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's where we're at in our country right now.
You hear me? But I'm lying, because well, no, I guess that proves my point even further. Because I'm not a Star Trek fan either, or Trek, or whatever y'all
It's an
nerds
E, so
call
it.
But that new one, the first new one that they came out with, I liked.
Yeah, and that was because they made it more action-adventure than they did sci-fi.
And that's probably why I liked it.
Right.
Now, the second one, I think I might have fallen off on.
Into Darkness, which was basically not a shot for shot, but it was a remake of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Of those ones, I actually like the third one the best.
Oh, I noticed that they put the one Star Trek on Amazon Prime now.
Oh, did they? Which one?
Yeah, with the black girl as
the
captain.
Discovery. Yeah,
and I remember
Discovery is decent. It is a fucking wreck of a show the first season.
Is it?
And then season 2 is good, and then season 3 it falls off again.
See, I noticed it was on there, and I did put it on. But you know how it is. Like, I can't watch shit in bed anymore.
Yeah. Well, I don't even have a TV in my room because I can't sleep with it on anymore.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I can't sleep with it off.
No. See, if I'm gonna take a nap downstairs, I'll throw something on, and on the couch I have no problem with it. But if it were in my room, I have trouble sleeping.
I'm one of that's how I know my people was arguing and yelling around me while I was a baby, because I'll wake up when the TV cuts off, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I'll half sleep, turn it back on, and just flip to some bullshit and just press play. But I can't play anything. You know what I'm saying?
It's gotta be like a comfort show or something
right,
like that. Yeah.
Right, because anything, I'll hear it in my ears, and it'll be my dream.
Yeah.
Like, I never forget,
That's the Star Trek show. So that's Next Generation, Voyager, DS9. That is I need to zone out, and I just want background noise. It's those three shows.
Do you ever do that on purpose?
Like, try to influence your dreams with what you're watching?
Yeah, like, sometimes I'll do it on purpose. I'll pick something on purposely to try to see if it'll get into my head.
No, you know what? Like, it's interesting. Because I don't know that it's ever folded in.
What show I've done it with. I can't remember what show or anything, but
Yeah.
I have done it before where I put something on to try to get it into my head. Like,
Yeah. It's interesting. Trying to control where you end up in a lucid dream.
right. Because I lucid dream a lot.
See, I don't dream
Like, I know
that
they
much
say people
anymore.
don't do that like often,
Yeah.
but I do it damn near nightly. Like some nights
See,
I
to
don't.
me that
but
sounds exhausting because when I do that, I'm always exhausted when I wake up.
I've never really equated it to that.
No.
That could be a. I never. Now that you've placed that in my head, I can be cognizant of it the next time that it happens because I do be tired when I wake up and I don't know why.
Right.
I'll be like, you went to sleep early last night, bro. You ain't got no
How
reason to be feeling like this.
Well, and you know, as ridiculous as it sounds, so REM cycles are like anywhere from 90 minutes to 2.5 hours, depending on the person.
Right.
I am less tired when I wake up if I sleep an odd number of hours instead of an even number of hours.
That's interesting as well.
Like, it's almost like I have to catch myself out of REM sleep in order to like feel refreshed when I wake up.
No, I know exactly.
And I think it's the same reason why like I'm not good at taking like an hour-long nap. I am 20 minutes or I'm out for 2 hours.
Right.
It's like 20 to 30 minutes or I'm out for 2 hours. And I think it's because if I hit that REM sleep cycle and I don't make it all the way through the REM sleep, I'm exhausted waking up.
Well, those are old people gambles. I just did that today, and I agree with you too. If I get too much sleep, then and wake up, it's like, oh, you ruined the sleep.
Right.
Like, but those are the gambles, right? I just did that today. I got back from the gym and I was tired as shit, and I only had an hour until I had to go pick Karma up, and I was like, I know this is dangerous, but we gonna gamble. We gonna see how it works. And boy, when I tell you, I woke up so disoriented. Like, what do I have to do? Where's my socks?
Where am I?
Where's my keys and my wallet? It was all of that. But even with that being said, I was only like 2 minutes late.
See, there you go.
And I'm never really late, but the fact that I was 2 minutes late after all of that, because that's what it is you got to snap yourself out of it. It's like your body is ready, like, like when you sleep that long, it's almost like, okay, is this practice or is this a game?
Yep.
And your body's like, oh, okay, we getting into it. It must be a game. And then you wake up and it's like, put me back in, coach. What'd you take me out for? Put me back in.
It's funny you're using that as a reference point. I was notorious in both high school and college for taking like a 20-minute nap right before we had to go out.
Oh yeah, I would definitely do that. I would definitely do that.
Like, it was almost like I needed that reset switch to like just wake up in game mode.
And you know what's crazy? I would be playing the craziest, most hardcore, aggressive songs in my head
while you were sleeping.
laying on my football helmet up against the wall like this, trying to sleep and get this rage music into my body for when I wake up.
I'm with you.
Oh. So yeah, I mean, I did that a lot. But you know where I went, the motherfuckers, they fucking jokes. You want to play with people, and that's why it was fights and shit, because you take shit like a joke. Don't come over here fucking with me when I'm doing my ritual, my routine.
No doubt. And I will tell you, one kid did it to me one time, and he got hip tossed onto concrete, and nobody fucked with me ever again.
And that's why I just don't get it. Like, and that's the thing though, like in real life, like, I don't know the science behind it, but you don't know who you're dealing with. Like, right. You don't know what version of Mike or Cliff is gonna wake up when you do shit like that.
You might
something
get
happened.
choked the fuck
I
out.
remember I had a situation like that. I was sitting with, you know how like you're squatted, like your ass and cleats are on the ground.
Yep.
So naturally your legs are open and your arms are on top of your knee pads.
Yep.
I'm sitting there listening to my music, and this dude walks over and kicks me with his cleat in my balls. And I told you, I was a running back. I don't wear a cup. I'm not wearing a cup that rubs up against I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
When I tell you the team hopped up, everybody had to hold me back. I was trying to kill that man. I still remember his name. I still remember his name to this day. And if you see this, I don't even like your kids. I've never met him before, and I don't even like your kids because they were raised by you. That's how much I still have a disdain for this person.
Which is real.
I'm sorry, that was deep, Lord, forgive me. But I'm sure your kids are bastards. I'm not lying.
Oh, by the way, you like the new shirt?
I did. I was thinking, the whole time we did this, I was thinking that's very fresh. That's a very fresh.
Yeah, I just did it.
Picture.
So I don't know if you saw the IG post where I did the picture of Andrew on his snow throne, the shirt that I wore to his birthday. So I did a transfer print of that, and then because I had the transfer heater, I had the heat press warmed up. I was like, fuck it. And I managed to finally get like a full size Do Fools Agree logo on a 8.5 by 11. I was like, all right, I got a couple of white shirts sitting up here. We'll throw one on.
I don't even know if I follow you. Do I follow you?
You comment on videos so frequently, or like videos at least occasionally.
Oh, yeah, so I do follow you. That's all my shit says is follow back, follow back, follow back. I don't. And you remember when we first started this, I have an issue with the terminology that you're using.
Right.
It's not that I don't love y'all or I'm not trying to be friends or nothing like that, but I'm not clicking follow on anyone. And sometimes they force follows on you. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I never followed that, but just because you liked a couple of their posts,
now they're in your stream, no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know it. I don't know why you following me anyway. I don't post shit.
Right.
Don't show me.
Trust me, I know you don't post shit.
I don't post shit. What's the post? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we have given very specific examples of the types of things that you should post, but you don't want to. And so, while we've stagnated growth, just know it's your fault. So, I don't know. Hey, you got any inadvertence to sway us before we jump over to a couple other topics?
Damn, man. I really didn't want it to be another week, but I really.
Oh.
I don't remember writing it down. I remember thinking about it while I was working, but I cannot remember what it was.
So I have a request to our audience / you / whoever's willing to listen. I would like us to find somebody who is big into like the Reiki and the crystal and the sage, like the spiritualism game, and come on and talk to us about it. I've been on a kick with that kind of stuff lately because I think it ties back to some ancient knowledge and mysticism. And, I've told the story on the podcast before about my mom making me the sage pouch for my wallet to help me get my first job.
Right.
This week I actually smudged. 564.
What's that mean?
That's with the sage. Just going around with the sage. The cleansing.
You call that smudging?
That's what it's called. I researched it.
Well,
I
don't know.
researched it. I researched
What book
it.
are we reading when we say this?
It's a great question.
Because I'm sure there are different.
I'm sure there are but the one that I was able to find relatively easily was that, and I don't know that it helped with the energy, but it feels like you're doing something, right? No, I did it like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And then my child was a demon the day after I did it, and I was like, well, I guess that didn't work.
Maybe you need to stay chill. Wait till that little nigga go to sleep
and just go in his room like, shh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lay hands on him.
Well, that and then...
I mean, in a good way, like, prayer.
Not like whoop his ass.
I mean, but, lay hands on him.
Maybe both. Both is good.
That's what the book intended. They intended both.
And while I don't know that I went down the TikTok rabbit hole on this stuff, I've been thinking about it more lately. I think that there is something to be said for energies, vibrations, frequencies, and you can change that around yourself. Like, I'm not gonna go full manifesting and like that, but like there is something to be said for ancient knowledge, and maybe it was a TikTok thing that spurned it because it was talking about somewhere in I think it's northern England, where they basically found a Nordic site that had a huge crystal, and if you translated the runes, it was basically, we will stand watch until the Stargate opens. And it was a huge crystal, like, sitting there with it. And, like, I don't know. Like, there's something to be said for it. Now, I'm sure all the, like, 50% of the ones you can find either online or even local shops, I'm sure 50% of those are fake to some extent. But still, like,
and
I think there's something to be said
that was putting up them fake metal obelisks all over the place, and people was like, what is it? And they found out he was just putting them up.
Yeah.
Like, it is trolls out here, like, that's,
But I do believe that. And I saw another article about another one being uncovered not too long ago in the States about basically remnants of an ancient civilization under some site. Like,
we talked about that, though.
Yeah.
We talked about that. And we talked about that before you knew what I was talking about. Remember, right. I said when I can't remember what the fuck they used to call it. I know they said, we talked about it a couple of episodes ago, and I said a Mary, and you can find certain shits on it if you type a Mary in, Ameri, and what you find is that the states that we live in were named places biblically. Jerusalem, Nazareth, you see all of that. So that's why they said when they reversed the compass,
when they reversed the compass, and then also with like the planetary tilt and the movement of the plates from basically being one gigantic continent to 7 continents,
right?
Like,
but
a lot of those ancient sites might be here.
North is actually south, and south is actually north. West is actually east, and east is actually west. So if that is the case, then that would put the Holy Lands right at the United States.
Right.
Now, I would imagine that the truth behind that would be the fight for it.
Yeah.
Just the fight for it in general.
That's why that's why all of those nations tried to take it, and that, in theory, the American Revolution should have secured it, but we were still backed by foreign interests.
And here we are today. And that's not to say that we wouldn't be in some other devil shit if, we weren't backed by the national banks. I'm sure if it was just the people that colonized this place, that they'd have their own national bank.
Right.
Wouldn't be surprised if the roles weren't reversed and this wasn't where the national bank or the world banks were held as opposed to Europe.
Right.
That's not to say we wouldn't still be in the same predicament, but it does throw you off the scent of where you would be looking for the answers.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think I sent it to you.
Well,
I sent it.
and we talked about this, I think, for a brief moment on last week's show about, like, deserts aren't inherently natural to this planet, and they could be the result of
Right.
previous civilizations,
I know
basically
you got
nuclear
that
war.
from Sleepy Eyed. What's
You know, Billy
Bill,
Carson.
Yeah, Billy Carson. Yep.
But
I know you got because I saw that.
It's interesting, like, how much of the U.S. is desert, and how much of it is just flat grassland. That, you know what I mean? Like,
How would you explain that though?
well,
Like, I know we've had a lot of war, but we haven't had a lot of
in our
hit
time,
points or damage.
I'm talking
Even
about
back
that.
in the day.
No, I am talking about before the continents separated.
Oh, I see what you're saying. In our time, as in this set of
Like,
humans,
right.
I get what you're saying.
So if there
I
was
thinking
if there were ancient
historically.
civilizations here, like, is the answer for the Grand Canyon that, guess what, that was flat land at one point, but it was also the site of a nuclear detonation or multiple nuclear detonations prior to written history?
It didn't even really have to be nuclear.
Fair, but that's what they talk about, is that it was actually the ice age before humans showed up. So, like, the fourth or the fifth ice age was actually due to ancient prehistory.
Only reason why I say
Like
it doesn't
war.
have to be nuclear is because look at what happened to Hawaii.
Yeah.
With that
Well, but that's why
DEW.
the Anunnaki are afraid of us now, because we've surpassed the nuclear technology that ended their world. We've got more precision than they had when they left.
That could be the case too. What if that was the case, right? What if that was the reason for the military industrial complex, where it's like, yeah, y'all motherfuckers think that we worried about y'all. We're not worried about y'all. We're worried about the motherfuckers who coming back to collect their grain, like
Right.
Rebel Moon.
Right.
Yeah, we owe them something. And us as human beings, at least from the history that I've been alive to know, we're not good at paying back. We're not good at that. We're not good at that. We'll
America
point
didn't
fingers,
pay its
point
bills
blank.
on time.
Shit. My ancestors still wishing for their great grandkids reparations. That shit ain't happening. You think that shit happening? They don't pay shit back. So even if it was a more intelligent, more capable life form, these motherfuckers is still like, let's run off on the plug.
Right.
They can come back if they want to. We gonna spend the money that they was coming back to collect on defense systems for these son of a bitches.
It's definitely in the realm of possibilities.
But my whole thing is that I feel like it's kind of outlandish just because even if we got it, so this is at least the way my mind is set up, right? If there was people, person, things, whatever the case may be, that, so we'll call it like the planet Nibiru or whatever that's coming back, whatever.
Planet X, Nibiru, whatever.
Right.
Yep.
Even if it's 10,000 years before it returns, you best fucking believe they have some sort of peon, like a security guard looking over a camera system trying to see what it is that motherfuckers are doing in their store.
Well, that's what the UFOs are, man. So
if we have this technology or capability, then I'm sure they like, oh shit, they did pick up we never thought of that. Well, let's write that down, because that's something new that we're going to be using. We
have to try to figure that one out before we show up.
You know what I'm saying? And at the rate that these motherfuckers move, we don't know that you ain't already got that information.
Right. Well, that goes back to even, there's a reason why the first recorded like UFO sightings happened around the same time as the atomic bomb and the atomic bomb tests. I think we actually cracked the code to unlimited renewable energy at that point and kept it as a military secret.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's some shit like that. But I'm just saying, so speaking off of what I'm going off of, right? It's almost like, so think about the first nigga to invent a knife. Right? Like, okay, think about that. Like, on a deeper level, think about the first nigga to invent a knife. Ask yourself why he would need to invent a knife. You know what I'm saying?
Probably originally to hunt, secondarily for protection.
Why? Right? Why? So let me change then. Why would you use a knife on another human being? I imagine this situation is exactly like that one.
Yeah.
Where it's one where it's this motherfucker is bigger and stronger than me, and he's not expecting it. You feel what I'm saying? It's not that nigga can't get a hold of a knife either. He just wasn't expecting you to use it. So as soon as you pull that bitch out and slash him or stab him, he then realizes, oh, the accord has changed. We're not doing this with our hands anymore. You want me to kill you.
Right.
And then that's how the world has gone ever since. Trumping weapons. I have to have a better weapon for the whole bigger, badder motherfucker.
Walk tall and carry a big stick.
But see, there's pieces to that truth, right? But the whole walk tall and carry a big stick is, motherfuckers aren't expecting, they know you have it. And you're walking with the confidence to give them the illusion that I'll use it.
Yeah.
And that should be enough. You're dealing with animals. And I'm speaking about us.
Yeah.
Us as human beings. You're dealing with animals. These are virile animals. So you can try to work on the accord of us. Like, like almost how like the police be like, you have to use the same amount of conflict. So somebody pulls a knife on you, you got to use a knife on them. You can't pull a gun. You know what I'm saying? You got to wait until they pull a gun for you can pull a gun. That's what the aliens is dealing with. Like the Iraq war, like you can't engage until you've been engaged. So you mean to tell me this motherfucker walking around with this AK, I just have to let him do it until he decides to shoot? That's what they're dealing with right now.
It'd be great if that's how cops actually acted.
Well, see, cops aren't military.
No, they're not. Despite
Cops
the fact that they have
military.
military weaponry.
And I'm not about to go on no rant about cops and try to demean or disrespect, but I'm sure the same way.
No, it's the same thing.
I'm sure the same way they look at security guards is the way the military looks at them.
And I think the same thing. It's funny in. Is it Ultron? It's not Ultron. It's Captain America: Civil War, where Vision goes, since Mr. Stark revealed himself as Iron Man and the Avengers were formed. We have seen an increase in superhuman activity, basically negative superhuman activity, and that by escalating on the good side, you've actually escalated the bad side because now they have to go further.
Right.
And, for all of these protests that have turned into barricade situations, one, props to Gen Z and Gen Alpha for using all of the fucking school shooter, active shooter drills to their advantage when they're fighting off these cops because they figured out how to barricade a room and shit like that. And so cops haven't been able to get in to basically kick them out of certain facilities because
What you mean,
guess what? This is the same generation that has spent the last 8 years of schooling in active shooter drills. So props to Gen Z and Gen Alpha right now because they are fucking carrying the torch. And I don't necessarily...
Came
Go
down
ahead.
the Ohio State campus with them Adidas elementary school chairs with the 3 slots in the middle, in the
Right.
metal bars, ready to jam it into a door handle.
And they actually showed footage of like college campus, like I think it's Columbia, where they did it. Like they basically exactly what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Took like a desk chair, like a school desk chair, and fucking
Mm-hmm.
barricaded that way. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, we talked last week. I am not informed enough on the Israel-Palestine situation to have a real opinion on it. I know that we as a country put our nose in too many things that we don't really
Right.
need to be involved in,
Right.
and that the situation in the Middle East is our fault and
All
us
I
and
can-
other world powers because we're the ones that installed those people. And
All
so,
I can say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were.
and so that in and of itself is problematic, and we shouldn't be spending money in situations like that to support one side or the other. The second
Right.
thing is this whole House Bill 0606, it's something like that, that is basically saying that speaking out against Israel is now going to be labeled anti-Semitic and hate speech.
Mhm.
Like, talk about stifling freedom of speech. And you've talked about this, Cliff. Like,
Right.
so
And I'll
it's
repeat
clear the
myself.
writing's on the wall with that. Like,
Right.
you can't criticize someone who's Jewish or a nation that claims to be a Jewish state because they're Jewish. Like, no, that's bullshit.
And then like we said, because I know that's what you're referencing. There's no other person, race, creed, anything else in the world that can hide behind a word like that.
Right.
Even when it comes to black folks who have went through Holocaust, slavery, all kinds of other atrocities, we had racism until white folks co-opted it and made it something else into something else.
Right.
But even racism didn't hold that same power of anti-Semitism.
Nope.
So why?
And
is
I'm
it that
sorry.
you-
And I'm sorry. Criticizing the political leadership of a state is not the same as
That's
criticizing
criticizing a person.
a people, or generalizing on a people.
Right. I
It's
agree.
not.
1,000.
It's not.
I agree. 1,000.
And so there have
I
been
really feel
heinous
like
acts
that-
on both sides in that region. And you're seeing the UN side with Palestine.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, I'm not the most well versed in the situation either. But what I do know from my life and experiences that I may, should, or should not have gone through is that if you encroach on anybody's area, you're going to eventually cause them to push back.
Right.
You can't get mad at the way they choose to push back. It was their area to begin with. So now that they decided to push back and you like, oh, this ain't how we expected it to be. Because, right, you expected just to take over.
Well, and the interesting thing right now is that, and I've seen this in a couple of different places, although I haven't been able to find a quote-unquote reputable news source to confirm it. And we'll get into the whole, I still want to get to this, the revolution will not be televised conversation, and we'll get to that. TikTok ban is part of that, but basically them saying that like Israel has actually pulled troops out of Gaza and out of the Palestinian front because Russia, Iran, and like 2 or 3 other nations have encroached on Israel's borders during all of this. And
you know what's
that's about to
interesting
be a
about that?
full-blown war there.
You know what's interesting about that?
That maybe Putin's right.
Listen, I was just about to say, I'm not about to side or sympathize with anyone. But what I will use are my own 2 eyes and evaluation. And what I get from that is, think about those 2 people that are siding with Palestine. They're 2 people that have been through the exact same thing. You're encroaching on my area. and you're leaving me no choice but to fight back. You're pushing them into this situation, and then you're trying to point the finger like they're the problem.
Yep.
Iran had to deal with us. Russia had to deal with us, Ukraine, and damn near everybody else in this motherfucker. And Ukraine used to be a part of them in the first place. They like, what? We can't take back our own child?
Right.
That's they came from us. They're only here because of us.
Right.
And we can't even do that. No, I get it, you know, because that's a very mild analogy.
And we were also part of the British Empire, so
But that's why I was saying that's a mild analogy compared to what has to take place for you to take them back.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like that's family business.
Right.
That's family business. You gotta let them deal with that.
Right.
Because interfering in family business ain't gonna do nothing but cause enemies on both fronts.
Yep.
Because this side of the family ain't gonna like that you sided with that side of the family, and that side of the family ain't gonna like that you sided with this side. So now you gotta worry about the person that you're trying to jump in and defend, as well as the people who are upset about you jumping in the first place. But shit, if your support comes in the tune of billions of dollars in weapons, we don't mind you getting involved.
Right.
Then you start to see how the world works.
Well, and that's where, like, I'm going to circle it back to college campuses and the right to protest and the right for those students who are contributing to that university to demand that those universities divest from relationships with Israel. Like, there is nothing, and that's not saying that those universities have to do that. Right. But then those universities also have to deal with the consequences in terms of withdrawal. Like, it goes back to what I said last week in terms if students choose to withdraw, like, as long as they are not instigating violence, and the only what I will call quote unquote riotous behavior has occurred when stormtroopers have shown up and tried to use aggressive force to break things up.
Right. But we knew that. We knew that.
Completely agree. And that's where...
We've known that for years.
And that's where, like... I saw a video today that was like, you know, Gen X is the sleeping bear that has done its best to raise good children and is just tired at this point. Millennials are...
What's Gen X? Is that our parents?
It would be your mom. My mom is more boomer because my mom's like 10, 15 years older than your mom was or is. Right. So it is like Gen X is quote unquote the sleeping bear. That is the feral generation. That was the latchkey kids that like raised themselves and they tried to do better by their kids, basically us and Gen Z. The problem is that millennials have been fucking drowned in crisis after crisis since we were like college age or coming out of high school.
Kids with us too.
Well, no, and I would say you and I in particular, and we've talked about this a little bit. Like we're in like that fringe area between Gen X and millennials. Like, because for the most part, we grew up with like the digital age. But we also remember a time before the digital age.
Right.
Like, we were in middle school when like
catch the bus and walk to the library.
Right.
And
right.
Stay after school till our parents picked us up until we were old enough to venture out on our own.
Right. And so it's interesting, like basically Gen X and millennials have raised Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and we've actually raised them. Whereas the baby boomer generation, like, basically told the Gen X and millennial generation, like, go raise yourselves. And so
that might yeah, I guess
Gen Z,
I guess I get that.
Gen Z and Gen Alpha would be like Karma, and would be, you know, Andrew would be on probably the cusp of Gen Alpha. Like, whatever comes after Gen Alpha is probably where Andrew is, but Andrew's going to be in that cusp between Gen Alpha and whatever comes next.
Right.
Those are kids that we've reverted back to some of the old ways in terms of, like, helping our kids to grow up. One, to defend themselves. Two, we're not coddling them the way maybe some of millennials and early Gen Z were coddled. we've kind of found the right balance between that of, yes, we're going to protect our child, but yes, they're also going to be able to stand up for themselves, and they're going to care for others and not just be so motivated. And the video I was watching was basically like, this generation, this college age generation, Gen Z right now, like those are the soldiers on the front lines, and then Gen X and millennials need to support them kind of through this. Whereas millennials, whereas millennials and Gen X had no support from the boomers.
See, and that's where I think it should be the opposite. I think that Gen or whatever the new shit, whoever
Gen
is
Z,
doing the shit now, with the protests, handle your business. We need to be the wolves over their shoulder. Y'all aren't fighters.
Same thing that I'm talking. I think you and I are saying the same thing, just in different ways. Like,
okay,
we need to support them and continue to try to protect them from the background, but let them be the face of the revolution.
Right.
And then we're doing all the dirty work behind the scenes.
Right. We gotta be the monster in the shadows.
Right.
The ones where they're like, oh yeah, the kid with the little skinny arms was flexing and he scared off all the monsters and he got confidence, but it was really that monster that was standing behind him that was like, try him if you want.
Go ahead. Yep. And I don't think
I see a lot of that action. It's more hate. It's more, I think TikTok is a good proprietor of that. I think that they do that shit on purpose. Put out, if you're millennial this, then you're this, and don't involve us. And, they do that shit on purpose to, again, try to divide. They see that the race gap is closing and people are more mingling and marrying and being comfortable with different races and relationships, and no one else cares. So now we have to find another way to separate. So let's do it by age.
Yeah.
What I would say is old and whack, and they're young and hip, and you should talk about it online.
Right. I think what's interesting is like the boomers raised the millennial generation. Gen X, that sits between the boomers and the millennials, raised Gen Z. And then millennials are currently raising Gen Alpha. So it's like every other is raising every other, right?
Right, I follow.
So you and I are raising Gen Alpha. We are in a unique spot because we're at the tail end of Gen X and the beginning of the millennials. And I feel like you and I in particular are at that age, like I would say anybody that was born between basically, call it 82 and 88. Is kind of the last of has the last of the Gen X tendencies. Like, we fought for our own in a lot of ways. To your point, like, we were still latchkey kids, but we also were in the beginning of the digital age, so we still understand how things were in the before times. Right. Before social media, like when you had to fight your battles in person kind of deal. But then we also learned how to fight the battles.
Take me so far.
Right. But we also figured out how to fight the battles online too. So like we are the bridge generation between Gen X and Gen Z.
Oh yeah, I'll hurt you either way.
Right.
I'll hurt you.
I'll hurt your feelings.
Right.
And I'll hurt you personally.
Yeah, I'll hurt you either way. Either way you want me to do it.
And I see my mom chiming in the chat.
Not to anymore,
I didn't support you, Mom.
It's not.
It's not that. It's not that, because I have grown up in a very good way in terms of like I am able to fight for myself, and I'm a good person. So, Mom, you did plenty to support. What I am saying is, generally speaking,
and I would never say mine didn't either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
I also wouldn't necessarily call us coddled either. Like, that's the difference between what I would call the true millennial and then like the crossover millennial, like the Zennial, the Gen X / millennial. Like, yes, we were supported. We weren't coddled.
Right.
It was, yeah, go do that. I'll be here. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a better way to do it.
Whereas I feel like a lot of the millennials, and
I mean,
hate to do it, but even my sister thinks she was more coddled than I was. Like, a lot more protection, a lot more just, comfortable enough to go through a transition. Like, so I think that there's even differences within individual families, like an older child versus a younger child in our generation. Like, I'm sure you would feel kind of the same way. I'm sure there are differences in how you and Chris were raised.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you and Dominic were raised. Like, we're
similarities
still
as well,
brothers,
yeah.
but like we had different experiences.
Right. No, I had to do the math for a second. I was like, wait a minute. It was like that white woman meme where they do like all the chalk and the shit. She just stares off and they do
doing the writing on the wall.
Hold up, wait a minute. Okay, I follow now. I'm following. I wasn't following at first. I was like, gotcha. But yeah, nah, I think that's absolutely correct. But I think I guess that gives me more faith in Gen Z, because like you said, my parents were 19 when they had me. There was nothing nice about any of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, it's
like,
just reality.
There was love, but
that's also where
hard work on both fronts.
That is also where I think your parents, in particular, Gen X, my parents, boomers. Like, there's a 15-year difference there. My mom was 30-something when she had me.
Right. Yeah, so maybe they have that too. You know, maybe they have the same thing that me and... Because, I mean, I guess Chris would be Gen Z.
Yeah.
We're 8 years apart.
Chris would be solidly millennial. Dominic would be Gen Z.
Okay, so
which is interesting. Like, your family's interesting in that regards, because I would say you, Chris, and Dominic span 3 generations in terms of like how they talk about generations.
Right.
Like, I would say you are technically a millennial, but you lean more Gen X. Same to me. Like, technically a millennial, definitely lean more like late Gen X.
Right.
Dominic and Maddie are firmly in the millennial generation.
Right. I can't get a
sorry,
real
Chris and Maddie are firmly in the millennial generation. Dominic
right.
is
I see.
like millennial / Gen Z. Like, he's later on.
There we go.
So it's just interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how none of that works. That's how motherfuckers be talking to me about the zodiac signs. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing about it. I know what I am because that's what they told me I was. But I had to ask Meemaw what karma was.
Dude,
I don't know.
I know I'm a Capricorn. Like, that's it though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow that.
No.
Y'all can follow that. And
although I will say,
true in instances, but...
And that was going to be my comment, like, only out of curiosity, if I looked up, like, what are the traits of a Capricorn? I'm like, yeah, most of those fit. But I also think you could look at most of those things and put yourself in any of those categories. Exactly. Because they're general enough.
I heard it broken down in the best possible way. And I still somewhat remember it. But they were saying, basically, why wouldn't it be true? Like, think about the seasons that you're born, and then think about the vegetables that you can harvest in that season.
In that time, yep.
You have to wait until October to harvest.
Back to ancient knowledge.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that makes perfect sense. So that would mean that I'm a different vegetable than your season.
Yep.
That doesn't mean my season might produce multiple vegetables. And multiple vegetables might align with other seasons, but it's still inside of this area where it grows. You know what I'm saying? So you're only going to get these type of people.
Yep.
That makes sense to me.
And so, kind of bringing this back full circle, I think any college administration, any locally elected official, so mayors in particular,
You just rocked me to sleep.
I think those people need to stay the fuck out of the protest game and keep cops off of those campuses.
You just rocked me to sleep, and I'm fine
Until
with
there
it.
is violence. Like, if there ends up being violence and, there's all this talk about it's outside agitators that are building these camps and it's outside agitators that are encouraging these protests. Like, no, it's not. Like, the majority of the people there, and I don't care if they're outside influenced, like, if that's how they feel, they have a right to express that opinion.
Right.
And so I think we need to double down on freedom of speech. I think anybody that supports this new House bill that basically enshrines anti-Israel talk as anti-Semitism should be fucking voted out, period. And, again, it comes back to show us where your dollars are.
Where whose dollars are?
Any dollars at this point.
Wait, like the people's dollars?
Yes, the people's dollars.
It's only a few of them with dollars.
Well, and that's a fair point. But can they afford to have X number withdraw? And that's kind of my point from last week.
Right. Now that's the thing about it. Now, so speaking to us with no dollars, what you're asking for is discomfort.
Yeah.
It's going to be uncomfortable to break away from the norm, but when the norm is supporting the
wrong side of history.
Right, and it's not a side thing. It's not a red or blue Democrat or Republican thing. It's a virtue thing.
It's funny you say that, and I posted, and I've been trying to share like the OSU protest stuff in particular, just to make sure like the algorithm's working and like they're not burying it, blah blah blah. The amount of like Dem versus Republican comments that were on those videos that I shared, I went into each and every one of them and said, for those of you talking about Democrats versus Republicans, y'all are blind because they're on the same side and it's not ours.
You're sheep. You're sheep.
Like I am, and I should have listened to you 3 years earlier. Like, I'm off this. Whose side are you on? Red versus blue. I'm off of it.
That was the first episode.
Democrat and Republican. Yes, it was.
The first fucking episode, and I was saying that shit.
And you know what? You are absolutely correct. I will say this, in season 5 of our show, there is no difference. They're on the same side, and it ain't ours.
Right. Regardless of what president comes into power these next 4 years, there's already a schedule in place, and it will be followed regardless of which one enters.
Yep. And that's why, like, survive 2025. That's my tagline. Because it has nothing to do with which one wins. If either one of those two candidates win, get the fuck out.
Listen, God, the earth, whatever you want to call it, it's been working enough on its own. It might be hard to make it to 2025. You see all these tornadoes, hurricanes, all kinds of stuff happening.
Not to mention the fact that it was 90 degrees twice in April.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a very interesting, and we're only 4 months into it.
True.
We're only 4 months into it. We've already broken records for previous years in tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes, name it.
It is the time of a reckoning.
Somebody's saying something.
Right.
That's all I know. Somebody, something, I don't even know what to call it, because it doesn't have to be a being. It could be, it's something we don't understand.
Could be Gaia. It could be the spirit of the earth.
Something that we don't naturally understand from a human level is saying something to us. and we don't seem to be listening. But again, just like we're not the best at giving back, we're not the best at listening either.
No doubt.
Oh yeah, you said that you was gonna be back on this date and you was gonna need this money. Make sure we got this many missiles and bombs and lasers by the time that date comes, because we're not giving these motherfuckers nothing back. That's our way. That's our way. And I hate saying our way, right?
No, but you're not wrong.
I hate lumping humans together in general. You know what I'm saying? But I find it very hard to believe that in this day and age, regardless of who is on top, it would be too much different.
No, because if you have an individual on top, individuals can be corrupted. Or if you have a small group, well,
only reason why I say that is because
this is where I get real conspiratorial, and it comes back to the oligarchs of today,
right,
are the last remaining Anunnaki.
Why would you think last remaining? They would never be the last remaining.
The last remaining on this planet.
But they would never be the last remaining.
They are the ones that were left behind to govern this planet, to rule over us. And they realized they couldn't do it by strict force the way they did in ancient times. And things have evolved too much. And so they try to rule things behind the curtain. And their leaders are coming for them.
Now, what I guess it could be is a depletion of bloodline.
That's also possible.
Because
this goes
have
back to
them
the whole,
in us. So, if you believe that theory,
the whole John II, every U.S. president since every U.S. president ever can be tied back to one
family, right?
Yep.
Just like the bank holders and all that as well. That's all the same, also. So I'm saying, if we know that, if you believe that we have them in us, then technically they thinking that that's enough to sustain what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But the issue could be that you've bred almost out their bloodline.
Yep.
And now they looking like, okay, we need to round these motherfuckers back up because they're not us.
Well, and have we grown to a number at this point that surpasses what they're able to control?
That could be as well. And maybe that's why you have Mars and the moon and all of these barren, just because how do we know? Let's think like this. And
if you believe the Tiamat theory, both our moon and Mars were moons of Tiamat before whatever disaster caused Mars to go into its own orbit and reduce the size of Earth. But Mars is actually a former moon of planet Earth. And was probably populated.
So back to what I was saying.
Yes, back to yours. Sorry. I didn't mean to flashy thing you there.
But how do we know that the entire solar system wasn't of the same makeup? You know what I'm saying? How do we know that the entire solar system from Pluto down on wasn't breathable human air solar systems, and you didn't do something to them to throw off that chemical balance to where we can no longer live there?
Definitely possible.
You know what I'm saying? What if Jupiter, which is a very gaseous planet, they say, you know what I'm saying? What if that is just the remnants of something that happened more recent than others?
Yeah.
Hence why they have the rings from the blowout of something massive taking place, and why you would have the gas covering the planet itself, because as we know, when you drop nuclear bombs like Chernobyl and them, it was dark for more than 30 days.
Yep.
You're blotting out everything around you. So of course, if you did something bigger on a massive scale, on a more massive scale, it would surround the entire planet for a while and you wouldn't be able to see anything that took place.
So there is a I'm going to call it a conspiracy theory. There is another theory that in the year 1816, possibly from maybe the Tartarian Empire,
Like
or
our
something
year
else,
1816. Okay.
that there was a nuclear winter at that point. Because all across the globe in 1816, there was a darkness and basically winter-like environment that we have no other explanation for.
You know what? And that would make sense too, because if you knew that, so if you had an ant farm and they became intelligent enough to be able to make a nuclear winter, but you're one of the beings that can watch it from afar and you got some people you want to take out as well, it would only make sense for us all to do it at the same time. So those ants believe that they were the ones that made all of this take place, as opposed to me being like, I just blew up 3 different planets because I got beef on these motherfuckers at the exact same time y'all did it as well. So the effects aren't as noticeable.
Here you go.
You hear what I'm saying?
What is and this is something that I'm gonna have to research.
Either that or Nikolai Tesla had a grandfather who was far and beyond his capabilities, and he was like, not only can I shoot a bomb across this world, I'll shoot a bomb to y'all's world as well.
Well, what's interesting is when we talk about even what we were taught in school, like Western history, right? And I'd be curious to see Western history versus Eastern history. And then, like, what the fuck was going on in Africa, Middle East, Asia from, like, 1700 to 1900?
Say more.
Why don't we know, like, why isn't that part of what we learn in school?
Well, you know,
and do we know what was happening there? Like, other than on the coast of Africa, white folks were coming and enslaving black folks, fine. What was happening in the core of Africa at that point?
Right. Well, you don't want, see, that's another thing, right? And in a way, I feel like that ties back into multiple conversations that we had, because there's a reason why you keep coming back. You know what I'm saying? No matter what the circumstance is, whether it's a desert in Africa or a lush jungle in Africa or whatever the case may be in Africa.
Cradle of motherfucking civilization.
You hear me? There's something you have to mine, whether it be cobalt for your cell phones or whatever it is, there's something that we need here, right?
Yep.
But you also haven't come here either. You dig what I'm saying?
I do.
You see a lot of China and other countries buying property here and leaving a few men back to run the Africans to make the shit go. But you've never seen anyone come to stay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you knew that area was that rich, that lush, that with all these resources that we need, why not cut the middleman and just establish yourself
straight
here?
Up colonize.
Right, and take all of the resources. But there's a reason why they can't. That isn't the African military. It isn't the terrain like they claim to be. And it definitely isn't the animals either.
Right.
Because all those 3 things can be solved with what they working with.
Yep.
Now listen, if we see a sudden fire laser, because we know that you can't paint bamboo and twigs blue. You hear them? No, I'm just playing. I don't even want. That's ignorant of me even say that because that would insinuate they don't have. When we know that not to be true. But at the same time, my point is if we see something like that take place there, you can guarantee that there's going to be an outside organization that moves into that area right after. And that's a fact, Jack. I know you ain't hear me. I said if we do see any sort of inkling of what we may think is a direct energy weapon hit anywhere in Africa, you're going to see an outside corporation move into that same area right after.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. That's another conspiracy thing that I saw on social media this week that was basically, it's not Hitachi, but it's something like that. It's basically
That's that massager that them girls be using in them videos.
True. I said it's something like that. That is basically a Japanese-based energy consortium that is moving into Maui in terms of smart cities.
What if they were using all of the energy from the... No, I'm just playing.
The human energy produced by an orgasm.
They're powering the world. From it. That's ignorant. I think we're getting too close.
We might be. So, another Big Bang thing that is on TikTok, but none of the mainstream media is supporting or reporting on, rather. This dude by the name of Bruce Menley. You heard of him?
No. Bruce Menley, he looked like somebody with a twisty mustache, and
you might be right
because he's a fast talker.
General or maybe Vice Admiral of the Marines, I think. I might have to double check because I don't want to implicate
the United States Marines.
Yep, that I don't want to implicate.
He doesn't have a twisty mustache.
I don't want to implicate the wrong branch of service here, so give me a second. Let me see if I can.
Oh shit! Implications finna be tossed around.
Oh yeah,
I'm here for it.
So near Seattle, a man by the name of Bruce Menley was killed during a raid. Was also part of NATO in terms of it. He was a Navy officer, and was also a representative to NATO. Was shot during a raid, or during a sting operation, rather, with a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old girl. And nowhere on mainstream media is this being talked about other than local Seattle news. But we are talking about somebody who is... No. And it was part of a sting operation, so basically he thought he was talking to the mother of these two girls, and that the mother was basically offering these two girls to him.
Were they foreign? I'm sure they were foreign.
No.
But they were American girls?
Mm-hmm. And so cops showed up, he drew, and was shot to death. But it goes to show child sex trafficking at the upper echelons of our United States military.
I mean, even beyond that, what it says to me that is now we've gotten to a point where you've depleted the people so much that you don't even have to take. You can
they'll
call
sell
to see if they'll sell.
Yep.
If that doesn't call for some sort of action.
Just think about how many... So he got caught up in a local police sting operation. So just think about how many young women and young girls he probably abused during his tenure as, the Navy's I'm trying to think of the right word, liaison to NATO.
Listen.
So
No,
where I usually will be one that, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the death penalty. The one case that I do make an exception for is anybody that sexually assaults a child. Because I'll kill him myself. And so, yes, that is another story that mainstream media is not covering right now. But it was news in Seattle. So when they talk about something like a TikTok ban, they can talk about all they want, how it's because they don't want China to have the data, which, by the way, that data is actually stored on U.S. servers. And TikTok U.S. actually is the one that owns that, and it's not even that they have it. It's actually licensed to a third party that is also based in the U.S. in terms of who manages their data. The only reason they're going after TikTok is because a platform like TikTok, a platform like Discord, a platform like, what's the other one? Signal. Those are platforms from which we can actually understand the truth of what is going on.
right.
Because we damn sure know the mainstream media on both sides is not covering it.
Nor will they.
No. And so when we talk about something like the revolution will not be televised, it literally won't. Like, you could have uprisings in half of the country, and CNN and Fox News won't even touch it.
Right. Right.
And so,
I mean,
you know, at this point, you've got to fight for platforms like that. And I'm not saying TikTok doesn't have its fair share of misinformation, disinformation. But when it becomes kind of a better news platform than CNN or Reuters or Fox News, like, they are blatantly just going after free speech right now. Between this,
they're blatantly going after a lot. People just waking up to the shit that's right in front of your face.
so what is the tipping point at this point? Now, I'm not saying here's my problem. I do not believe Donald Trump is the answer. I also do not believe that Joe Biden is going to do anything.
Yeah, I don't believe in either of them.
So,
And it's a long shot
for
Bobby to make it.
and even him, like, you know, he could be there as a third, like, the Kennedy name alone, like, you know, he is mired in historical bullshit in this country.
Not on a good way. That's why I think it would be more of a reason to vote for him, right? Because he's had multiple people in his family assassinated. And he's running against the regime.
The existing regime.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
Right. The first time ever that they denied him a Secret Service escort.
Right.
That's never happened before. That lets you know something.
No doubt.
Now, will the world see that? Will they see through everything? And I'm not saying that he's the end all.
I mean, I actually
schedule
think
won't still go down. But
I actually think the world recognizes that America is run by corporations and oligarchies at this point. On both sides of the political, like, I think the world recognizes that the American ideal of democracy is a joke at this point. Like, neither one of these candidates are worthwhile at this point.
That's the thing. I don't know that would be the case if it was ever done correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
I feel like just like how I said that they co-opted racism and now it doesn't have the same meaning as it did before. I think they did that with democracy as well, to the point that people are thinking that it just doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work. You have to have everyone willing to operate fairly in it without manipulation. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Because when you do have a democracy, that's also, I'll be honest, and this might sound crazy, that's a weakness.
Yeah.
Because the more people involved,
well, I think what's interesting,
the more can be swayed one way or another. Whether that be with intimidation, bribery, blackmail, whatever the case may be. If I can get something on all of you, then democracy is fallen.
No doubt.
We wouldn't even know it.
But I think that even the world views the U.S. as not a true democracy anymore. Like, it is very clearly run by the corporations. I was watching something earlier today, and this will tie into the,
burn them down.
The quote unquote policies conversation.
Entertainment purposes only. I don't call for
no, I do at this point. Like
destruction or anything like that. But for entertainment purposes only, burn them hoes down.
Like, the stat I saw today, and it was an expert giving testimony to Sherrod Brown, of all people. And I see Sherrod Brown on fucking Hulu all the time talking about the Intel plant in Licking County, who is also too old to still be in government at this point. So, Sherrod, I think you have done a good job. I think it is time to make room for new people. Expert was basically saying that in the 40 years leading up until the pandemic, corporate profits accounted for 11% of inflation. In the 3 years since the pandemic, corporate profits have accounted for 53% of inflation.
You know what's crazy is I said that to you too.
Yep.
Even when the pandemic happened, I said, and you remember I said, I don't give a fuck about no goddamn curfew. They about to tell me when and where I can go anywhere.
Right.
It used to be like, be careful going home. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit.
How is that different than usual?
Yeah, it's not. You hear what I'm saying? I don't care nothing about nothing. Like, and I say that all the time. I'm not a member of y'all's society. I choose to play the game with you. But I don't abide by your rules, laws, or regulations.
Yeah.
Nor will I ever. That's not going to happen. Now, I abide by my morality. Right. I know what is right or wrong, and I know what will fuck with my spirit. So I avoid those things.
Yeah.
But the fact that those two things are mutually inclusive, that's just by sheer luck. But as far as what you say is law, I don't agree.
Yeah.
And that's where they have us right now. They have so many people that are like, well, it's a law. Says who?
Well, and I think that this latest thing, then I'll
a man that bleeds like me is going to tell me what I can or can't do?
I will do a callback here. This House bill on being able to criticize Israel, being labeled anti-Semitism. Guess what? Don't care. Do not care. Come after it.
But you, for anybody that's just tuned in, and I agree with your statement, but for anybody that's just tuned in, again, that has nothing to do with individuals, locations, areas around. It's specifically how it's being handled from a political standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same way with America. Motherfuckers be like, those old dumb Americans. Let's be more specific here.
Well,
all of us ain't dumb. I know a good majority of us may be, but all of us ain't dumb. You're talking about the people that run this shit, that put us in a position to have to be dumb to survive in it.
I saw a great video about Killer Mike being on The View. And it was talking about like how The View tried to trap him into saying that he was supportive of the Republican governor in Georgia. And he immediately was like, No, I support some of his policies,
Right.
and I'm going to sit down and have lunch with the dude to speak the voice
Right.
of my community.
Killer
But-
Mike for president.
No doubt, dude.
Killer
But the
Mike
thing
for
is he
president.
would be assassinated the moment
Immediately.
he
Because
declared.
he's not playing. He's not playing around. And he's not dumb.
No, he is not. Like that whole what is it? It's Green. What's his bank? It's Green something. But like,
Is that his
is
bank?
Yeah.
You talking about not Greenleaf? Is it Greenleaf?
It might be Greenleaf. Give me a second.
I didn't know that was him. If that's
Green Crest.
that might be right too. Because the second thought that popped in my mind was Green Trust, and I didn't
That might
think
be
it was
it, too.
something.
Killer Mike Bank.
It don't matter. Killer Mike for president.
Oh, Greenwood.
Greenwood.
That's what
Yep.
it is.
Should have known he from Atlanta.
But that is like
Everything in wood.
the ladies on The View were basically trying to trap him into endorsing Biden. He's like, no, I care about my local elections. I care about my mayoral elections, and I care about the governor. And if the battle is close and I don't like the way it's going, I'll come out and support a candidate. But I stay out of white folks' business, is what he said about the presidential election. And Whoopi Goldberg, of all people, just was like, oh, I don't know if it's not white folk business. But
you got to be the token.
Right.
You the token. You done caught heat in the past, and they still got you on there. So
Right.
you got to play your token role.
no doubt.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I don't listen. I'll be spitting my shit whether I spit it. It just has to be spoken. But I don't care if only 3 people tune in to listen to it.
Right.
I don't want millions of people to tune in to listen to it, because then they going to try to leverage, blackmail, all those things that we talked about me. I don't need that in my life.
Right.
And listen.
So
Court him if you want to, but I'm not going down without a fight, is all I'm saying. You
So-
better catch me without looking.
no doubt. So the original topic and what I shot you the note about was revisiting the Jordan Jennings Reggie ticket
That's why I said you rocked me to sleep.
for
2024. You kept
2024.
circling back to topics,
I am.
especially around the colleges. And I'm like, wait, I didn't even know that must be the topic.
So that's number
Yeah.
1. Protect free speech at all costs.
But it don't matter, because even if, and I'm not saying that you are, but even if you're dead wrong, you think I'm fighting against you?
Right.
I'm never fighting against you.
Right.
I'd do better off fighting the people off of you and switching your thoughts than ever going at you specifically.
So number one, United's number one policy under the Reggie Jordan Jennings ticket, whichever order we do it in, number one policy,
Right.
We give no foreign aid unless 90% of the U.S. citizen base is above the poverty line. Number one policy, no foreign aid unless 90% of the U.S. baseline is above the poverty line.
I'm not gonna lie, sir. That sounds a little too good to be true. I gotta drop out as your running mate.
Oh, are we gonna? You want to drop it down? You want to drop it down to 80? You want to drop it down to 80%?
Be great, but that's a lot right there. I don't know that. That's a lot.
But then, what do we have?
right
But
there.
what business do we have getting involved in foreign affairs
I get
if
what
we
you're
can't
saying,
handle
but
our business at home?
But see, then you would have to put different. What do you call them when it's like? Well, if it applies to this, turn to page 90.
7.
You gotta add down.
There's
because
got to be riders.
Yeah, like otherwise we end up being Russia. We can't let you get too close, motherfuckers. And, the people may vote against it because nobody's been to war.
Right.
And nobody knows what it means if we don't go to war. So they're always going to vote against what may be necessary. Then your democracy is shut the fuck up and be protected.
Right.
So that's why I say I understand somewhat where they get that military industrial complex. But it all comes from running off on a plug. You run off on a plug, then you definitely start getting shit to defend yourself. Let me get a pistol.
Here's the next follow-up policy, and we'll cut that number down to 80%. We'll say 80% of U.S.
more realistic.
The 80%. We'll do the 80-20 rule. 80% of the U.S. population has to be above the poverty line in order for us to administer foreign aid.
I think
policy number 2. Damn it, I had it and I just lost it. God
I seen that.
Policy number 2. Well, I'm going to circle back. Policy number 2, we eliminate individual income tax. We only tax corporations. And corporations
that makes no sense.
And corporations are only taxed on their profits.
Right.
So, if a company is making $1 billion in profit, they will be taxed at an astronomical rate. However, if they increase their run costs, meaning what they're paying their people,
right, that rate
their rate is reduced.
Right, that makes perfect sense.
So eliminate the individual income tax, and focus only on corporate taxes and corporate profit taxes. So if you're not operating at a profit,
but you're talking too reasonable. I'm your running mate here, and I'm here to run with you. But you're being too right now. I'm being the.
Are you the other side? You're the opposition.
Right.
You're the one that's gonna keep me level versus going too far.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're the guy. You're killing Mike, and I'm the white guy in the corner that's like, nah, bruh, I'm telling you, you could run better if you.
All right, so but we can find numbers there that work.
Yeah, no.
I think we should get rid of individual income taxes and only tax corporations.
But if it sounds like it makes sense, then that's the way the world is currently. If it makes sense to you, if it sounds like that makes perfect sense.
Well, see, but
it's the farthest from reality.
I hear you. My philosophy on that is corporations. The only way you avoid paying that extra income tax is you raise salaries. Or you invest back in your own company, and your company is profitable because it provides a benefit to the individuals within the nation. So you get rid of individual income tax, and you only support corporations that are providing to the American people, because the only way you're going to be profitable is if you're providing to the American people. So from that perspective, and here's the danger of that principle. You end up with billionaires at the top of that corporation because they are protected. So the only individual income tax, so you pair eliminating individual income tax with only corporate taxes unless you make more than $500 million a year. So unless your income is greater than $500
million a year. See, now I gotta be the white man in the corner.
All right. What do you got? Do we need to knock that number down?
Yes, we definitely do. That's a lot of money.
That's
a lot of money. Now,
the problem is, in order to cover the individual income tax that we're no longer paying, you got to tax the top 1%.
Yeah, the top. Yeah, they have to be hit. I'm not even against taxing the people. But the people better be making a means to be taxed from.
Well, that's where I go back to you only tax corporations, and the only way corporations get taxed or corporations can lower how much they get taxed by paying their people more.
But then what do the people pay in tax?
The people don't pay anything.
That's not enough. I can't run with you. I'm just playing. But yeah, no, that does make sense. It should be that way. I do believe that the corporation should cover the people, but realistically, like we gotta account for the greed of our country, right? So
Well, that's why we call it, and we're going to name it something clever. This will be called the greed tax. And I don't know what the letters in greed stand for. But
now
basically,
that would be interesting.
But basically, what it means is that if your corporation is making X% of their revenue is straight profit, we're taxing the profit. We're not taxing the revenue.
Now
once you do revenue minus costs, what's left is your profit. So we only tax the profit.
So what we do is we call it the greed tax. And then we run promos all over the world to make greed again. You feel me? Like to the same way that people are trying to say anti-Semitism or racism. Oh, that's greed. And then if you do that, and you're one of those people that are like, I'll take the greed tax. People are automatically going to be like, wait a minute, because that's greed. Right now, greed is acceptable. That's how you come out on top. So you have to rerun it to actually be greed again. Make greed greed
again. Make us greedy again. Make America greed again. There you go.
No. That won't work.
What's your counterpoint?
You feel what I'm saying? You have to run that as like, there's no reason to be greedy. We can all eat. We've proven it by everybody having this and us working. So if anybody steps outside of that, that's greedy. And that's something that should be beyond shunned.
Amen.
So make that greed again. And we're going to make money green hats. You can only wear them backwards.
Only backwards.
Front only works at a barbecue with... No, I'm just playing.
Number two policy. And this is one we've talked
about. On 3.
Oh, is it 3? Well, we're eliminating... We're eliminating personal... Well, no, you're right. It's number 3 because free speech was the number 1 priority. Number 2 was the greed tax.
What policy am I co-running with? I don't remember. I don't know. Go ahead.
So we're gonna document this. Number 1 policy is freedom of speech. Number 2 is the greed tax. Number 3 is we're gonna call. We got to figure out a catchy name.
I got it.
This is the homeless tax.
Like state shit. Like state by state shit.
Can be. The homeless tax.
Your homelessness less than 2-3%.
The homeless tax is for every property that you own that is not occupied. You owe a larger percentage in property taxes than anybody else. So if you own a home that isn't permanently occupied, and permanent occupation means more than 80% occupied throughout the year. If you own...
Wait. If we're talking about like a building, are you talking about occupancy or are you talking about length of lease or...
I am talking about occupancy because I think that is the simplest way to do it.
Right.
If you're
not full, why are you charging so much?
Exactly. So if you are not fully occupied...
Right.
Based on the number of bedrooms that you offer or the number of units that you offer, we can figure that piece out.
Right.
If you are not fully occupied, you owe 200% on your property taxes.
Right.
So meaning, if you're an Airbnb, it better be at a price that you can rent out more than 80% of nights. And if you can't, then that property should become something that you want to divest from. I don't know. Because it operates at a loss.
I think we might have to page 93 if you fall into
turn to page
93 on that, because that also comes down to where that could hurt your independent investor. Like, we don't want to hurt the people that are trying to make more. We want to hurt the people like BlackRock and Vanguard who are buying up all the houses and doing that, charging more so people can't move in. And
so do you want to do this law as applies to anyone that owns more than 3 parcels of land or 5 parcels, or we can figure out the right number there?
You could even put a percentage on it so it's written in.
So if you own less than 10 properties, this law applies to you.
Wait.
Or if you own more, yeah,
you.
right. If you own more than 10 properties,
10 or less properties, this does not apply. This is right.
So number one is
you still want the little guy that's trying to make it to be able to make it. You don't want him to.
But I also don't want him to become a conglomerate and an absentee landlord. Like, here's an example for you, and I actually think this could go beyond residential and breach into commercial. East Market right now,
right?
And I gotta look up who owns the East Market, the actual real estate.
Oh shit!
East Market, Trolley District,
Shit.
ownership. Who we got here? Oh, what is the Trolley District? Blah, 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 blah. I want to find out who owns it because there are at least 3 different businesses that are operating out of the Trolley District right now that are dealing with the fact that the electrical sucks there and they have lost their equipment because of it. Because I know Just Chicken did.
Like the building's not grounded, like
something to that effect. Like Just Chicken lost their deep freezer. The Bearded Baker lost maybe their oven, something. And there's one other place, I think Buck City, or no, it's Saba, the Middle Eastern place, that have all lost equipment because of power surges at that location.
Right. Are these brand new buildings or are these older buildings that people are moving into and making them these locations?
The East Market was completely renovated in order to bring in stalls of vendors.
So
and those kind of things.
Whoever renovated it decided to cut costs and just
cut corners. Yep.
Put shit in as opposed to grounding.
Yep. So I'm going to take that also to corporate, and it's funny because I saw a video that basically the number of like empty corporate offices at this point in this country that they won't convert into like hotels or convert into apartments, blah, 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 is outrageous in this country right now. Like, we have so much dead real estate inventory in office spaces right now that we could house every homeless person in the U.S. Easy. But they won't convert that because they know that down the line they can make more money from renting it to a corporate office.
Right. You know, I'm with all that.
So we have free speech, we have the Greed Act, we have the Homelessness Act. What else we got to talk about? Reparations. We know reparations are on the list.
Reparations ain't on a goddamn list. They ain't on no list. You know what? I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day.
All right. Tie universal income to the greed tax. Basically, if you are part of that 20% that is below the poverty line, we'll pay you enough to bring you up to the poverty line, not any higher.
No, that don't work because...
Did you think that that'll result in the same problems that we have today with that
system? For sure,
system?
because like now, like everybody always talk about black folks, but white folks make up most of assistance, public assistance.
Absolutely,
so
they
that
do.
That would no. You don't get benefited for losing a lead.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I can back off of that one. Here's my last one. The Fathers Act.
Oh shit! I can already tell you it's that man in the corner. We're not for this. We don't want fathers
No.
and families. We don't want fathers in homes.
Right.
Because that makes strong kids, and we don't want strong kids. We want manipulated kids.
No doubt.
So I'm already out of that.
You're
No,
out
I'm
of
just
this
playing,
one.
but go ahead.
No, I mean, ultimately, that's kind of what it comes down to. Is we've got
I said, I was going to speak as the devil in the room.
Right. We've got to right size this narrative of deadbeat fathers, which, in my personal experience, I don't know any deadbeat fathers.
Oh, there's some out there. But,
I'm sure there are.
Right.
But you cannot loop in
all
men. This goes back to the hashtag, right?
The thing,
not all men.
Here's the thing, though. The line is more down the middle than you would assume.
Yeah.
There's just as many deadbeat mothers as there are deadbeat fathers.
I agree.
The issue is the court system rules with the mother regardless. So the ones that are deadbeats end up with the kids while the father that wants them doesn't get them.
Right. Completely.
And that's not, that's not all situations, but that's how it goes a lot of the time. So it's not necessarily that you need to make a clause for fathers so much as you need the court systems to become equal.
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest, and this may be a joke and serious at the same time. With all this transgender going on, you're going to have to eventually.
Right.
Because the father may be the mother.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And you can't put clause, turn to page 93, did you transition from a man to, you can't do that. So is it that way or not?
I think that there are ways to simplify that code that basically say, are you paying 50% of the child's expenses, yes or no? And it's the child's expenses, not the mother and the child's expenses.
But, and I'm always a big advocate for this, even to the point that my mom was like, nah, don't do all that. But at some point, some of the mother's expenses are the child's expenses.
I hear that to an extent.
The child can't operate without the mother having
the way I look
gas.
The way I look at it is what I pay in child support is the same as if I were paying tuition for a private school. Because my child is in a better school system than he would be if he lived with me right now.
You going above and beyond out the gate, nigga. I ain't saying all that. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm also coming from a unique spot that I'm paying $1,500 a month for one child when most women that I've met on dating apps talk to me about how they have 4 kids or 3 kids and their baby daddy pays $500 a month. Like,
I'm not even comfortable with you saying that on the podcast.
But it's facts. That's facts. Like, I'm not slamming my ex over that.
No, and
I'm paying $1,500 a month for one child.
It says more about you than it says about her, and all things positive on your end, but none that anybody else needs to be aware.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll leave it at that. But, like, the court system does treat fathers unfairly, especially fathers that want to be involved.
Right. For sure. But I wouldn't put a clause in it. That one, like I said, you could just let that play out, and it's eventually
it will right size itself.
Exactly.
All right, leave that one to the states then.
Mm-hmm. That's not even a joke. That's the truth.
All right, so we've tackled income tax. We've tackled.
Listen, if you got any more on your list, you may need to tackle a Star Trek recap for 2 minutes because my bladder
All right,
is.
you run, and I'm gonna run the recap. So you do what
All
you gotta do. So number one, the Jordan Jennings Reggie ticket consists of focus on free speech. As long as there is not destruction of property, as long as there is not, I'll call it irreparable harm to places of business. That's number one. Number two is the greed tax. The greed tax is that we will no longer have an individual income tax. We will only tax corporations, and we will only tax corporation profits. So corporations can avoid this higher profit tax based on paying their people more because we're only taxing profit. So if the cost of goods goes up, if you're making capital investments into your own facilities, if you are paying your people more, that's going to come out of the expense side. The revenue side can be what it is, and you'll be taxed only on the profits. And maybe it's only profits over $1 million, or only profits over 10 million, or only profits over 100 million, whatever the case is. Number three is the real estate tax that focuses on our ability to deliver affordable housing to citizens of the United States. So, it's an occupancy tax. If you own more than 10 properties and you have a vacancy rate that is higher than 20%, then we are going to tax you double in terms of property taxes on those locations. And so maybe property tax stays the same at the city, state, local level, but then the federal government has an additional tax for anything that is above that. And then the Fathers in Families Act is going to focus on right-sizing the amount of support that fathers need to pay to mothers and making sure that that is a true 50-50 expense sharing between parents of individual children. Because right now, fathers are treated unfairly by the court system. And that pretty much summarizes the Jordan Jennings Reggie ticket.
Oh, you trying to put other shit on there while I'm
No, I covered the four things we talked about.
Okay. I'm about to
Now,
say
do you have anything else to add to our ticket?
Cause shit, all I can think about is man, I Tom Hanks did like a league of their own, boy. I couldn't. Okay. If I was running for president.
So we have the free speech.
I know for sure I would do away with I would put a limit to congressional standing. That's a fact.
Congressional term limits. Completely in support.
Should
be no different than the president, right? Like, you shouldn't be able to run for more than, we can call it 2 terms, you can call it 4 terms, whatever you want to call it. Because they're every 2 years. So if you want to call it 4 to get them to the same 8 years, fine.
And you don't got to serve it under that same president.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We should have to vote on the congressional, electees. That's my whole thing is, say Biden puts in somebody in Congress and they like that motherfucker bad right there. Then Biden doesn't get voted in the next.
I hear you. Senate and House of Representatives are elected by the people. They're not appointed. But you could make that argument. You could make that argument for the Supreme Court and for other, like, Secretary of the X positions.
Are they? I thought that they came in based off of the president.
Nope.
Senate and House of
Senate and House of Representatives are voted in.
Oh no, it wouldn't be from the front end. Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with congressional term limits, so that's another good one to add. I actually think Supreme Court should not be a lifetime appointment. Make it
Is it?
Make it a 10-year appointment or make it a 15-year appointment, but that's the max. It is. Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment unless you resign.
And I was about to say, or get caught with a charge, or nah, that ain't the case.
Right. Clarence Thomas right now is rolling around in $1 million RV.
Shit. Nah, I don't know if I can think of anything else. I mean, I'm sure there's hella, and while I listen back to this podcast on
You'll think
Monday,
of one more.
I'll be thinking of some, but
All right, and just to reinforce with the greed tax also includes the. Oh no, it doesn't. So I did miss one in my recap. So we have free speech, we have the greed tax, we have the occupancy tax, we have congressional term limits, and then number 5 was the foreign affairs tax or the foreign affairs mandate, which is we do not interfere in foreign affairs.
Oh yeah, you said that.
Unless it is a direct conflict with our interests. We do not provide funding unless 80% of Americans are above the poverty line.
I got one more.
All right.
I got the fair fisticuffs tax.
Okay.
Meaning, because if we running on the true free speech, I think it should be true free speech. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a right to call me a slur if you want to. But then comes in the fair fisticuffs tax. You know what I'm saying? Where if you have offended me to a point that I am willing to engage, you can choose not to engage. And then I can't do nothing to you. But we also got to run a promo on people that deny the fair fisticuffs tax. Just like greed. That is not acceptable. If he offered you a fair fisticuffs and it was for a understandable reason and you denied that man, he can then sue you in court for a fair fisticuffs.
Either you gotta put up or shut up. It is the fuck around and find out act.
And you gonna pay for his court fees, and he needs an extra $250 for having to show up and miss work.
There you go.
And at that point, if the world is running better financially, that $250 should be a $25 hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I'm with you.
So either you got to partake in these fair fisticuffs, or you going to be paying me $25 equivalents and my court fees.
There you go.
I would be charging people fair fisticuffs all day long just to get out of work. I know he don't want these fisticuffs. No, I'm just playing.
All right. So with all of that, we're at 2 hours and some change. You got anything else for us, sir?
You know, love them all. Love most of them. Love who you feel like loving.
There you go. And vote Bobby Kennedy. Here we go. Do us a favor. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell an enemy. Tell them to troll.
Fucking troll.
And with all that, peace out, fools.